Okay, calling to order the Committee on Ways and Means and Committee on Waterland for its informational briefing from DLNR, who will present its upcoming budget. So good afternoon, Chair Case.
Good afternoon.
Committee members and chairs, thank you so much for this opportunity to present our budget today for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I just have to say in the beginning, seeing what's happening not just in our nation's capital, but in our nation's capital today is with the outrageous riot going on, and it's very, very disturbing. But also, it makes me appreciate our democracy, the work it takes to do this work. And I just want to start by thanking you for your service. I just think we cannot take our democracy for granted. This is the work of our democracy. You guys have tough decisions to make, especially this year with a tough budget year. And we just want to work as collaboratively with you as possible. So we appreciate the opportunity. If I may, I will share my screen. Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the DLNR's mission is to protect future generations, and we do this for both the residents of Hawaii and the people who visit here. Situation with the COVID crisis impacting our budget. And so our budget reflects requested 20% reduction in method of funds A, general fund reductions. So that was our charge this year. We did it as carefully as possible, and it includes both cost reductions and revenue enhancements. What we're trying to do both is protect our very precious natural and cultural resources, but also to do our part to promote economic recovery. We paid particular attention to maintaining critical staffing in our positions. And so our proposal provides for the use of special funds requiring, in some cases, ceiling increases and changes of method of funds to accomplish that. And then we have capital improvement projects which both protect our natural resources and the public use while creating jobs. So I want to just highlight a little bit about what we did this year in order to really continue the work of DLNR in the best public interest possible, which is to provide some stability in a challenging time, but to make sure that we could do our job in the new circumstances. So we really did an immediate pivot to remote work capabilities. We really ramped up our e-signing and especially online permitting, which is, a lot of these it was a good kind of kick in the pants to leapfrog ahead on some of these things, which really, I think, benefit the public as well. We worked out safe field work protocols because a lot of our work is in the field. We wanted to make sure there was public access to the Bureau of Conveyances so that it could continue its business. We had a special request to keep our harbor bathrooms open statewide for homeless access under the CDC guidelines. That was complicated and challenging, but we were able to do that. DLNR did, although we weren't lead in COVID response, we did step up where we could with statewide communications, some staff working full-time on unemployment claims, enforcement, and we did a lot of coordination between the state and the counties on to implement the restrictions as they varied from time to time to coordinate parks and trails and beaches and boating among the counties. And then we did a very successful pivot to remote public meetings for all the divisions and the boards and commissions, and so that was a big help also for the public. Actually, is a help that continues beyond the life of COVID, I think. So just a little overview on our accomplishments this year and our with your support and where we're headed and some of the challenges. So the land division has been working on the TOD plan and got its draft East Kaho'olawe Strategic Master Development Plan approved, and that will allow us to generate revenue for DLNR while providing the necessary affordable rentals and mixed-use light industrial and retail out of Kaho'olawe near the rail station. We, our charge is to generate revenues from state lands to support our work as much as possible. And so the Special Land and Development Fund is critical to that for the whole operation. And we've ramped that up a little bit this year in our proposed budget. We have 80 positions that we propose to fund from the Special Land and Development Fund. And that's a little bit more than is going on now. One of those programs funded by the Special Land and Development Fund is the Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. They had a great opportunity that they jumped on this year to do the Royal Hawaiian Groin project to keep the sand in place in this stretch of the beach. And with the tourism shut down, they were able to jump on this and get this project done really with very minimal disruption to the tourism industry because of temporary shutdown. So we're proceeding with adding sand to the beach as part of the ongoing maintenance, and this is funded from the Beach Restoration Special Fund, TAT funds, and partnerships with hotels and the University of Hawaii. The Bureau of Conveyances is one of those crucial divisions that is fundamental to business in Hawaii. It provides all the land transaction reporting and holds all of our records. And the Bureau did a terrific job transferring its operations to keeping it 100% operational during this time, keeping on the recording. They did e-recording, they did staffing rotations of telework and office appointments, and arranged for drop-offs and exchanges. They also did very significant progress on the major lands record system upgrade that you are supporting. And it's set now for a March go live. Some of our challenges with the BOC, we are, we're just concerned if we have any further delays to operations from any budget impacts to the digitization project. It's important to get those records digitized and online, both for access to those records and especially as a business risk, to prevent business risk in emergencies. We do have a ceiling request increase, ceiling increase request for the special fund. We thought that there was a strong nexus between the Bureau and the work that SHPT does, because SHPT work is essential to many of the transactions that the Bureau records. So we're proposing to use the existing POC special fund to fund 4 of the positions that otherwise are general funded at SHPT and would be potentially cut. We're also requesting increases from the conveyance tax. This is not a Bureau special fund, but it is collected by the Bureau. We're suggesting that that's a good source to fund 12 of the now unfunded bill care positions that are critical to natural resource protection. The engineering division, LNR 810, focuses on prevention of natural disasters. That's flood control and dam safety. It's entirely funded by the Special Land and Development Fund and also the Dam and Reservoir Special Safety Fund. And it's important to continue that work in those funds to prevent dam failures in the state. We've done a lot of expanding online capabilities this year. We've published a Kauai flood insurance rate map update that's now available online. The engineering division conducted virtual training classes for elevation certificate and base flood determination for surveyors and engineers. We did an online payment portal, so now they can collect fees online. And also a remote dam safety inspection program to be able to watch, particularly when travel is limited, watch what's happening on the dams through your remote camera. So that's a a big increase in safety for the public. In LNR 141, we were able to complete a lot of the work on the Kaho'olawe Canal dredging and improvements projects that's slated to be completed later this year, and also launching the Lahaina Ferry Pier. Both of those are large job-generating, dollars-generating capital improvement projects that are important for the public. Geothermal is under the engineering division as well. They regulate the geothermal activities, both to protect the resource and also to maximize public safety. And I'm happy to report geothermal is very gradually now coming back online. And this is important for meeting our state's renewable energy goals, and also it generates royalty revenue. And I want to add that part of our proposal in our budget is to shift about 8.5 FTEs in LNR 141, the engineers who work on these capital improvement projects, shift it to capital bond funding, GeoBond funding from general funds, and that frees up general funds to cover some of the reductions in general funds elsewhere in our budget. In aquatic resources, we were able to continue field work after developing health and safety protocols, and our reef monitoring operations. You know, I know you saw in the paper, but we've seen more schooling of fish closer into shore, more diversity of fish, and it's been very, very interesting to see what happens when nature has an opportunity to breathe a little bit. The Aquatic Resources Division was able to include online public services and really ramp that up, and e-signing, and really did a very great job in kind of piloting and now mainstreaming online public scoping. And if any of you participated in any of those, it was terrific to be able to really have more public engagement with very little travel cost for anyone, including the people that wanted to participate, the members of the public. The Commercial Fisheries Division was charged with distributing $4.3 million in CARES Act fishery relief funds to the fishing industry. That took a lot of work to develop a spend plan and get that approved federally. And so DAR did that spend plan and the distribution, and that plan was also used by DBED for supplemental funds distribution. We did notice a decrease in commercial fishing license renewals, but an increase in non-commercial fishing this year. And you know, that's probably because our fisheries are a very important local food source in this kind of economic downturn. The Ecosystem Protection Program, LNR 401, did a lot of work with coral outplanting on damaged reefs, and a pilot project at Hanama, and also Makaloa plants for estuary protection. They were able to do some rapid response to prevent spread of some invasive corals and a coral-eating anemone, corallimorph in Kaho'olawe and Hawaii. And I'm sure you saw DAR worked closely with our enforcement division, DOBOR, on some very serious poaching violations, Waikiki illegal fishing and West Hawaii aquarium fish poaching. And so that was great to be able to shut down that threat as much as possible. The Recreational Fisheries Division, again, noticed an increase in non-commercial fisheries, but was able to continue its surveys statewide. And importantly for the public, we were able to do the rainbow trout fishing. They were able to develop a lottery system and COVID protocols that allowed 1,200 anglers, a lot of parents and kids to go fishing, and a lot of trout were caught as a result. And so that was great for the public to be able to pull that off. Also, you saw in the news a lot of schooling down in Waikiki, Ala Moana particularly, and created a lot of fishing and swimmer user conflicts, so the Aquatic Resources folks are working pretty hard with everyone involved to try to sort things out. DAR has a CIP request to install photovoltaic at the Anuenue Fisheries Research Center. that will reduce its operating costs and its carbon footprint. It's actually a great place for solar right there, and it would really cut back on electricity bills. And they are trying to maintain very needed key staff by converting some of the general fund positions to special funds and federal funds, both the Commercial Fisheries Special Fund and the Special Land and Development Fund. Our Division of Forestry and Wildlife has 4 LNR accounts focused on forest resources, native resources, natural areas and watersheds, and outdoor recreation. And so we're particularly concerned about highly threatened endangered species in this budget crisis. If we're able to do less work, we definitely have some birds that are highly threatened. They could be going extinct over the next few years. So we're working hard on predator control and forest restoration, some very pioneering mosquito control efforts, protecting our forests from rapid ohia death, protecting our rare snails. The Palila habitat fence around Mauna Kea is now 95% complete, and we're working a lot with public and private developers on habitat conservation plans that facilitates development while protecting endangered species. A big trade-off, not a position trade-off, but a budgetary trade-off is going to result from reduced general funds and reduced contract work as a result. And that will help protect DLNR jobs, but it will affect jobs in the outside contract industries, people who work a lot with DLNR, and that's unfortunate. LNR 407 had a lot of accomplishments this year in federal, county, and private funds leveraging, in planting trees, in controlling invasive species, and in getting a lot of intern service and volunteer to help with our work. We're focusing with this cutback in general funds on maintaining the existing infrastructure like our fences. We're trying to keep these from going extinct. But we won't be able to do things like purchase seedlings to plant trees. We do have some difficult repairs, expensive repairs to our large machinery that's important for emergency road clearing and fire breaks that are, we're just not going to have money to repair some of those vehicles. And we have some key positions that are vacant. And we're unfortunately, with our proposed budget, going to have to discontinue our part in the Youth Conservation Corps. It requires a match with federal dollars, a state match, and we just don't have the funding for that. And that's really too bad because that's an important program for developing
My kids went through this
young
program
jobs.
years ago.
Oh, wow.
Youth
The
conservation.
forestry program, LNR 172, got a lot done this year again. We planted a lot of seedlings from the state tree nurseries. We did complete a koa inventory at the Kapapala Koa Canoe Management Area. That's the next step in making those trees available for canoe clubs, people wanting to build traditional koa
That's the
canoe.
one we went to.
And the program was able to secure over $5 million in federal grant support.
Yeah. I wanna
Its
go.
requests this year include CIP requests mainly to repair hazardous conditions, and we're just concerned if we don't address at least those, then the hazards are going to grow. But the budget restrictions will reduce our ability to manage our forests adequately and will also delay projects that were intended to generate revenues. The LNR 804 Forest and Outdoor Recreation Program also did a lot of great work this year, completing a mobile app for hunters so that they can check out in and out of public hunting areas electronically. We built the comfort station and parking area up above Hilo. And developed better modeling for managing game populations. And so our budget cuts there are going to affect the ability to hire some critical staff here, and we are requesting changes in method of funds for some of those. The Legacy Land Conservation Program, again, a very popular program. It's, you know, the economic downturns mean there's less money that people have, but also the great opportunities for purchasing land that is really important to protect for the public for natural and cultural resources. So we are requesting ceiling increases to help fund the state's share of the priority purchases that have gone through the approval process. This is money that's matched over 75% from other sources, state and county and private. The Commission on Water Resource Management transitioned to, very smoothly to conducting work and holding commission meetings virtually, and is continuing our long-range water resource planning. Its budget cuts will have some significant impacts on our neighbor island work, particularly the stream monitoring that the legislature is supporting, and the deep well monitoring work. And I just, this is a comment that is applicable elsewhere in DLNR, but we do have 5 pending contested cases at CWRM. We have more on the land board side. It is costly to hire hearing officers and very time consuming. And we are worried that if we have reduced operating funds, we will have trouble eventually funding these administrative proceedings. The Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement graduated its first Basic Officer Training Academy in January 2020. So we now have 12 new DOCARE officers who have assumed field duties. We're very, very excited about it. You folks provided a recurring general fund appropriation. We hope we can continue this. This is really important for getting a whole new generation of enforcement officers who are trained not just in enforcement, but in natural and cultural resource protection, and are dedicated to that first and foremost.
This is less budget.
We have a difficult situation right now. We are only 62% filled in our officer positions at DOCARE, 87 officer positions filled out of 141. And that's going to really compromise our ability to do resource protection and really to respond to complaints and service calls. So we're looking for ways to fund more DOCARE officers. I talked about potentially using the conveyance tax to fund 12 positions here. Also, we're proposing that 7 positions and overtime be funded through the boating special fund, which used to fund some positions, and there's a strong nexus there. The Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation is a special funded division and was able to do some significant work with the special fund this year we rebuilt the Port Allen Harbor office, and we are proposing to use some of the boating special funds and a little bit of CIP to fix the Kahana boat launch this year, which is in critical need of repair, and also to fund those boat care positions. The State Historic Preservation Division very proudly and successfully launched this year, just this month, the Hawai'i Cultural Resource Information System, HICRIS. And that makes the digitized data for all registered users integrated, and simplifies the submission process and tracking. It's not a paper tracking system anymore. It's an online tracking system. Everybody it'll be much easier for people to work with, and it does fulfill the last requirement of the National Park Service Comprehensive Action Plan. We did Due to the budget uncertainty earlier this year, we canceled solicitation to do the next stage of digitizing the records in the library. That is really too bad, because that's an important part of, the next stage of getting this whole data system available to the public. This is just a couple of examples of how the work of Shifty is so critical to the functioning of our economy. These are two state DOT projects, Poly Highway and Waipa Bridge. They were emergency situations due to really heavy rainfalls and flooding, and Shifty was able to expedite their review and consultation on the historic property side of these. Really critical to have Shifty be able to function well here. So we are proposing to fund 3 positions that are now general funded at Shifty from the Special Land and Development Fund, and as I mentioned previously, 4 others by the Bureau of Conveyance's Special Fund. The Division of State Parks has had a lot of attention this year because of how important it is to our tourist industry and also to our residents. And this is what an empty diamond head looks like. We lost $1 million in annual revenue this year. And at one point, State Parks was losing $500,000 a year in revenue. And this is just really critical to, again, our residents and our visitors. And without really good management money, we have new impacts from, for example, vandalism and homelessness. So this is what an empty diamond head looks like. Here's what it's supposed to look like. Diamond Head was just recently reopened. You folks were really critical to the very survival of state parks this year, switching from special funds, which totally dried up, to general funds. So a deep thank you for that support. That was really critical. We were able to get a state parks fee increase enacted during COVID, so we are set to be able to raise more revenue for the state park system. And to do that, it is very critical to raise the state parks special fund ceiling for operations so that we can put those revenues in it to offset reductions in general funds and the uncertainty of the TAT continuing. On the Kaho'olawe Island Conveyance Commission, the effect of the 20% reduction is going to be a loss of 2 positions, which brings the staff down to 11. They did great work this year to the 19 protocols to get volunteers back on the island. And that was especially critical because of the terrible effects of the February forest fire on the island, which burned a huge part of the island. The chair's office does homeless coordination for DLNR in coordination with DOT and other agencies. We rely very heavily on the DHS funding for trash collection and storage that you folks support to manage these homeless camps. And we can't do this work without this funding. It's just critical to keeping these places at least under some kind of control. The chair's office is LNR 906, and it does all of the oversight on personnel, fiscal, IT, communications, land board, and other boards and commissions. And we have some trade-offs in our request to keep critical positions in this budget. So I just want to close by, saying the lessons learned we had this year, that we lost revenue due to tourism, but we also, learned that our natural areas need a break, and it was actually really good in a lot of ways for them. And we also learned that residents, the people of Hawaii, rely on our outdoors as much as the tourists do. When the tourists weren't here, residents were out enjoying our trails, our parks, our beaches, our ocean. And so we know that this work that we do is so critical to preserving not just our natural resources, but what they do for a healthy lifestyle. And with that, I will take questions. We have a number of our staff available to answer questions, and so, excuse me, I have a...
Chair, why don't you introduce your staff that's there?
Yeah.
Can you introduce
Thank
your
you.
staff?
I will do that. Thank you. I have Bob Masuda, our deputy, first deputy on the land side, and we have also Kaleo Manuel, our water deputy, here. And folks, if you just turn your video on briefly to say hi to the committee members, that'd be great. Alan Downer is the administrator for SHPD. Russell Suji is the administrator for Land Division. Please remember to rename yourselves and put your name and your division. Let me see. Mike Naho'opi'i is the administrator for Kirk Kaho'olawe. Kirk Cottrell for Division of State Parks. Artie Chang for the Engineering Division. Les Kobata for the Bureau of Conveyances. Brian Nielsen for the Division of Aquatic Resources. David Smith, the Administrator for Division of Forestry and Wildlife. Alice Schutte, the Administrator for our HR Division. Lila Luz for IT. Cynthia Gomez for our Fiscal Office. And Pua Ayu does our homeless coordination out of the Chair's office. We also have here from DOFA, we have Lainey Berry, Jason Omick. Let's see, we have Megan Stats from DOBOR. From Land Division, we have Ian Hirakawa and Kevin Moore. And from DAR, we have David Sakota. I think I got everybody. Oh wait, there's another page on the screen here. Okay, Irene is DOFAR, our forestry program, Irene Sprecher. Allison Yim from engineering, Emma Ewan from DOFA. We have, let's see, Jason Rodola, I missed him. He's our chief for DoCare. And then we have, let's see, Rob from DOFA, Nina from engineering, Ryan from DAR, and again, I think I have everybody covered here. So Alan Carpenter from State Parks, and the assistant administrator.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for being here, and
Thank you.
they are available for any detailed questions that I can't address as well.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. Members, any questions?
Just a comment. Chair, the WAM committee has heard several agencies, and in particular, it was interesting that another large agency such as DBED, talked about statutes that are outdated, and so they're scrutinizing it and to make life easy for everyone. And I was wondering if having your different agencies here with you as well, I think now is a good time to do that in the reviews, to make sure, and to make life easier for them as well, to get those statutes outdated, if not needed, get rid of it, or if they need to simplify a certain work project or permitting system, how you can make improvements. So just your thoughts about that as well.
Thank you for that. And folks, you heard that directive, and I know we are already taking a hard look at some of the boards and commissions that aren't really active anymore.
Right. That's been
so,
an issue as well that's come up.
Yeah, so they require, oversight, but they take a lot of time, and their original purpose is, in some cases, outdated. So folks are taking a good hard look at that, and so we will look hard at some of the statutory provisions that require
Right.
work that we also think is not relevant. Also, you know, we may want to look at some of the administrative proceedings statutes to just see if we can simplify. You know, we don't have a, for example, we're not on the standard National Administrative Procedures Act, and you know, some of our proceedings have taken quite a turn for the more complex, and so that would be worth looking at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Questions, Senator Favela?
Yeah, land division, what you talked about in Kaho'olawe, and the partnership. So this is what DOBOR was going after for their completion of their development over there? Or is this the state partnering with another company? You're talking about rental unit, light industrial, near the station and all that for revenue. Is the state making the revenue, or this is something that we are working with, that we had helped them with the transition with DLNR?
Yeah, in this situation, DLNR is acting as a landowner. We have several parcels there that are part of the mix of the overall kind of development scheme for the rail. So it's not that we're regulating the whole development area. We are trying to work with the other agencies and landowners that are doing developments out there to support compatible projects that are on state land that DLNR manages.
Okay, so the homes and stuff like that gonna be on state land? The rental units,
Yes.
the light industrial, is that gonna be on state land?
I'll ask Russell Suchi from Land Division.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Senator. Yeah, we have a site that we are holding or trying to work with HHFDC for affordable rentals, and then and that would be probably through a set aside to HHFDC for their purposes. And then we also have our other lands where, although we're planning light industrial or some retail, we are planning some, I think, more market rentals. Ian, you want to add on that?
Yeah, so with the parcel that, I'm sorry, Ian Hirokawa with Land Division. So the parcel that is adjacent to the UH West Oahu rail station is proposed to be a mixed-use development with, I think it was approximately 720 affordable units, and that would be closer to what we would call workforce housing. So, you know, the rent goes up, the higher you go in the structure. Just Mauka of that parcel, Mauka of Farrington Highway, there's another, I believe it was 280 units planned, and that would be more for the lower income, the AMI, you know, to service that sector. So in total, we have 1,000 units planned. And it would be rental housing.
So how far out we are on with this plan? How far, like 5 years, 3 years, 10 years?
I think largely that's it. Really based on how we can, what kind of support we can receive for things like infrastructure. That's the big, you know, issue right now is getting in. And so I think, you know, our goal is to have at least the mixed use portion, which is phase one of our development, the mixed use, by I would say the end of this decade. So within the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years or so, depending on, you know, if like I said, we can support for infrastructure and a good development partner lined up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Moriwaki?
Aloha, Happy New Year, Chair. Thank you to you and your staff. I do want to say that I've seen your good work with DOCARE and NAR and engineering, and I really appreciate all you're doing. I know it's a huge department and that, you know, there's a lot of cost. I'm looking at all your special funds and you know, the way that you're trying to fund without general funds. and I appreciate that. And I'm just wondering, of your special funds, what kind of revenues are you generating? I think I count up about 7, but I'm not sure. How are they, how are you generating the funds, and are those special funds, the use of the funds in a way that they've been, for which the funds have been collected, the uses, that you can't use it broadly as you are looking at now?
Yes, thank you, Senator. And I want to thank you, Senator, for your interest in sort of connecting your communities with the work of DOBOR and DAR and DOBOR. You've been very great to work with and to help with problem solving. So we have, a variety of special funds. The most significant being the Special Land and Development Fund, and that takes revenues off of the really the commercial properties that DLNR has under its oversight that the Land Division manages. So all of those leases and revocable permits, the revenues that they generate go into the Special Land and Development Fund, and that funds the Land Division entirely, the Office of Conservation of Coastal Lands, and sort of miscellaneous others. The other funds are, spread out through the department, and they take in, well, the Boating Special Fund is also a very significant one. That's entirely self-funded with revenues from lands under the DOBOR's jurisdiction and fees. So the park fees, parking revenues at state parks go into the state parks fund. The engineering division has funds from licensing and fines, mainly. The geothermal revenues go into the Special Land and Development Fund. Some of the others are sort of miscellaneous sort of fines and revenues, DAR and OCCL. So it's a variety, some small, some larger, and we are we are limited, number one, by revenues, and number two, by the legislatively authorized ceiling. So we can't spend more than you folks say we can. And so what we're trying to do in some instances is to increase the ceiling so that we can use those funds to replace some of the general funds that our budget cuts.
I guess why I'm asking is that the special funds are to be used for the purposes for which they're collected. So if you're collecting fees, even in terms of what you mentioned with DOBOR, special fund paying for some enforcement, we don't care because we want to keep our parks safe, for example. It's understandable. And if there were a way to budget accordingly, like what your annual, say, needs are, and we're able to propose that, it seems to me, rather than saying I'm going to shift this or shift that, and when we don't have money for general funds positions, for example, that many of this could perhaps be something that you could propose in terms of how you use the special funds, and so that you would have a little bit more cushion or leeway in terms of how you use the funds for the purposes in which they're collected. Keep the parks safe, keep them clean, keep them repaired, and we could have a better idea of how those funds were used, and general funds would come in when there were no other ways to support the department's vast responsibilities. So I think what I was asking is in terms of how you budget annually for meeting the needs of the users of the various programs that you have.
Yes, I totally agree, and I think we are more or less trying to do that in this year's budget. It's it's a little when you have a tough time, you look pretty hard for your options, and So I do agree with your approach, to the extent that we have revenues and to the extent that we have authorization to use them.
And so is it that in terms of your fees and what you charge, again, if you had a budget and you knew what your costs were, I know some of them are capital improvements, but if you had that, then in charging your fees, it would more reflect what your costs were. And so your board could look at how you raise your fees accordingly and not just sort of arbitrarily, but it really based on need. So I think having some kind of gauge like that would be helpful for us to see as well in supporting what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you for all your service. I think your staff is doing a tremendous job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Members, any other
Thank
questions?
you, Chair.
Yeah, just,
Go ahead.
okay. Chair, thank you. With regards to, just to dovetail on the special funds as well, I noticed that the difference between this year's special funds, you lost about $10 million compared to the 2019 on the special funds. Was that because of the COVID situation? But that would have happened only after, I guess, the July 1st budget of last year. But there was almost a significant loss on that special funds difference between 2019 and our current 2019 and 2020, and compared to this upcoming budget. Whereas the others remain the same, except of course the other federal funds was significantly lower as well, from 9 million down to previous at 13.
Yeah, let's see, Cynthia or Russell, can you comment on this? I guess it would be a reduction in special fund revenues.
Probably land division of the special funds?
Yeah, end of FY20.
Not sure what, Senator, hi, Russell Tucci. I'm not sure what you're looking at, but if it is the LNR 101 funding, which is
It's in the operating. It's in the operating budget. So
Special
the
Land
20. Yeah.
Development Fund, yeah, last year, in 2021, the Special Land Development Fund did not receive any of the allocated TOT that was supposed to come into the fund for purposes of OCCL, state parks, and DOCARE. And that was,
Yeah.
I think we had previously, that's about 2.5 million that had been in 20 allocated to the fund for those 3 divisions that did not come in 2021.
In 2020. The TAT that we receive goes into the special land fund and then gets distributed out to the divisions.
Yeah.
So to the extent that went down, that fund went down.
Oh, okay.
And then secondly, as to COVID impacts, we did see some decline, not a real significant one as I had previously expected, and I was glad for that. But I know that TAT was a big hit for the 3 divisions that we had relied on.
Okay.
I don't know if Cynthia has more information on this.
Okay.
It can help also because state parks had a major decrease in revenue.
Yeah.
Hey,
Major.
good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Bob. That was a good segue. Yeah, Senator, I think what you're looking at in LNR 806, our ceiling went from about 7 down to 96,000, and that was part of the trade-off when we converted, with your guys' help, the 48 positions from special fund to general fund, and then unanticipated was the ceiling drop as well. And as the chair indicated, state parks, when COVID hit, we started hemorrhaging about $500,000 a month in special fund revenue. Diamond Head, about $1 million, but all the other parks where we charge parking and entry, and also camping and lodging, all of those revenue sources went flat for several months. The only sustained income that we received was from like the leases at Coquet, where we have a a lot of recreational leaseholders that still had to pay leases, but all of our concessions went flat. The food and beverage operators, the parking and entry guys, everything went flat because we closed the parks. Now that we've reopened, we are cautiously optimistic, watching that balance between the increase in tourism offset by the concern of what COVID's going to do. But Diamond Head, for example, the day after New Year's, we had almost 3,000 people, of which 80% were out of state, which was very surprising to us, given the low proportion of visitors we have compared to 2019. But that's been offset by the huge rate increase that we did during COVID. We doubled the parking rates, and we increased the entry rate from $1 to $5 a person. Our rules now allow us to both charge for parking and entry, which is a significant increase in revenue. So we're getting more intelligent, and I know Senator Wakai and I have had these discussions, and I agree, we've undervalued the resources that we've charged for in this state for years, and I think we're bringing them back up to a much more fair market value. But that's why the ceiling increase is so key. We're now accumulating funds that we can't use, and so we're watching this dynamic very carefully. So hopefully, Senator, that answers your question on some of the revenue loss from the 806 budget.
Has it impacted the operational funds, though? Has it impacted?
It has, but not to the degree it would have had you guys not given us the generous bump in our 806 general fund. You saved us. You totally saved us. We're treading water, and so we've had to cut overtime and certain contracting costs, and we're reducing certain services, trying to turn off irrigation and whatnot. But so it has, but not to the degree it would have had you not given us an increase in our 806 general fund. So we really appreciate that. Ideally, we could wean ourselves from general fund over time on operating with these fee increases. But we also learned we're like hotels. Without tourists, we're dead in the water on income.
Thank you very much. For the chair,
Right, I have. Senator Misalucha.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair Case, for the very insightful presentation. And my question actually was partly answered already, because I was recently in a budget meeting with HTA, and the point was made about how our parks may not necessarily be in line with racing, or the rates are not commensurate to the value that it offers. And as you know, and by the way, Chair Case, I'm very appreciative of the fact that the department is making a great and concerted effort to reduce your budget by 20%. But as you know, it's not just a matter of reducing, it's really also trying to raise revenues. And that's why a low-hanging fruit would be looking and reviewing our rates at many of our state parks, which when compared to a lot of mainland attractions, are really on the low end. I think Diamond Head charges, $10. So I'm glad to see that there's an effort that's being made to right-size it. But I think there should be greater and more strategic effort on our part to actually review our parks. And these are like low-hanging fruits, as you say, 80% of whom are being used by tourists. So certainly if we're trying to attract higher value tourists rather than on the lower end, which is what HCA was saying that they're trying to do, that certainly would be in line and aligned with that strategy. So are there any, my question is, are there other revenue efforts that you have in some of your departments that would reflect an effort to increase revenues rather than just reduce expenses?
If I might, Chair. Bob Masuda here, First Deputy Chair Case, Senator, and also Chair Inoue.
Wait, excuse me. If I could, excuse me. For the senators, when you speak, can you please put your video on?
I'm actually sick, Chair, so I'm not in a position to put on my video. nothing serious sick, but not, yeah, I'm not in a position.
Okay, well,
So
for everyone
the
else.
future I will. For the future I will, but thank you.
Okay, because this is on Olelo and it looks awkward to just have a name without people's faces as they speak.
Okay, so for this one, grant me that.
But we love your question, Senator.
Okay,
And-
Bob, if you can go ahead.
And if I might, thank you, Chair, and Chair Inouye. Talking about the low-hanging fruit and an area where we have been totally undervalued is in our marine resources. We're the only state that doesn't charge a fishing license, for example. And so Brian Nielsen and his team at Division of Aquatic Resources are working out some plans. We're consulting with DOT harbors and all of our related agencies. And we'll be consulting with Senator Inouye and her committee, as well as others who are interested. I know Senator Moriwaki has been very involved with us in trying to keep aquatic issues more normal and gracious rather than fighting each other. And so we will be coming to the Senate and the Ways and Means Committee through Waterland for support in introducing some legislation that will allow for permit fees and licensing and all of that, and raising funds for our Division of Aquatic Resources, both in terms of conservation as well as research and protection of our resources. Thank you.
Aquatic Resources did, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian or David, raise the commercial license fees for which state fishers, is that correct?
Yes, that's in the works right now through the rulemaking process. We have a board meeting this month to go over.
Yes. So we're working on that. So again, Senator, really do agree with you, and we need to all look very carefully for those opportunities where our, what we are charging is really undervalued, and we haven't raised the rates in a very long time, and it's time to do that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Wakai.
Thank you. I know that you're hampered by rules as to how much you can charge for your various parks. How do we help create a better environment so you can raise your rates when necessary and lower them when times are bad? How do we make it so that you become an attraction like Polynesian Cultural Center or Atlantis Submarines or whatever, where you can just adjust your rates based on what the market demand is at any given time? How do we get away from this rule-making, painstaking, laborious thing to increase fees by $1?
Chair Case has a very exciting concept that our team will be bringing to you. So thank you, Senator Wakai. You guys asking all of our great questions.
Well,
We have the adaptive management. Go ahead, Chair.
It's a really important point you're raising, and to apply it to revenue adjustments is a really important point you're making there too. Yeah, we have been looking at adaptive management concepts. How do we sort of build into our statutory or rulemaking systems the ability to be much more responsive than we can. I mean, if it takes 2 years or 3 years to go through a change in law, whether it's statutory or rule or whatever, we're way behind the curve when by the time, we catch up to our own crisis. I know State Parks has examined this some. I don't think we have something like that in place yet. What you're talking about, Senator Wakai, but it's sort of, the concept is sort of real time. I think there are more abilities to do sort of real time changes in price for like parking or whatever, depending on availability. Now that you can go kind of do it online. Kurt, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, just a real quick anecdote. For state parks, our administrative rules allows for fees to be set by the Board of Land and Natural Resources. So under that administrative rule, in theory, every 2 weeks we could do a change. The Attorney General's office, though, however, has, for legal implications that's above my skill set, have indicated that the fees that we are charging for parking and camping and whatnot still require Hawai'i administrative rule process. So ideally, if there's a legislative repair, it would be to clarify, for DLNR, for example, if we could have the Board of Land and Natural Resources be that body that sets the fees, we could do dynamic pricing seasonally or temporally. So we would support working with you folks on any level that would allow to really clarify that. Because DLNR has that capacity through our board. I know our rules do.
How often do you guys interface, Kurt, this is a question for you, Kurt, with the Hawaii Tourism Authority on how to manage all of your various resources?
Pre-COVID, we were pretty communicative in terms of what we're doing. And HTA recently, I think I sent you a description of it. They did on the Uber Media survey of cell phone data of patronage of all of our state parks, some of our non-regulated trails, some of our out-of-bound areas, and we got incredibly good data on HTA's nickel on the movement of people within our parks. I haven't had a chance yet to meet the new CEO, but I've worked with them in the past, and I'm really excited to interface with HTA as we try to rebuild tourism in the proper manner. And for example, what Alan did at Haena, where we have reservation systems, where we're trying to limit the impact of the visitors on our local communities. We're going to do that at Hana, at Waianapanapa. We're looking at it for Diamond Head. But HTA and state parks have a very critical relationship in terms of how they market and how we absorb their marketing. So I haven't met with the new CEO yet, but I plan to, before session.
Okay. Just to add to that, Senator Okai, Chair Case and I did meet with the new CEO and his deputy, had a very extensive discussion, and we connect the dots very well together in terms of our values for our natural and cultural resources, and we intend to continue that dialogue and include more of our administrators for specific activity areas. But from an overall philosophical thing, we had a very exciting consultation with Suzanne, myself, and the new CEO and his deputy.
Yeah, well, we had a budget meeting with HTA last week, and they had budgeted $20,000 to do a private sector study on all of the state parks and what the carrying capacity is, as well as what the price structure should be for both parking as well as entry. I told HTA, take that out of their budget and then make you guys do that. I don't think that's HTA's responsibility to tell you what the right pricing is, but it kind of gave me the impression that somehow HTA and DLNR are not talking. They had this kind of neat idea, neat concept of putting all of the parks on a website. So if I'm a mainland visitor and I want to go to Iao then I want to go to Kokee on Kauai, then I want to go to Diamond Head, let's say, that there could be like a statewide kind of e-ticket. You go on each island to go to any of the state parks, you pay a set fee, or you can buy individual parks, ideas or entry. So they have some really neat ideas, but I don't get the sense that they conveyed those ideas to you.
We actually discussed that together.
Yeah, we did have that, at least an early version of probably the presentation you got on it, and it's, I mean, my impression is that it's a kind of an overall marketing plan that sort of links in and includes state parks. But we're definitely clear that we need to coordinate with them on messaging and pricing and that kind of thing, because they don't do that stuff. What they're trying to do is sort of interpret it for the visitors and make it more accessible and more real time reservations kind of thing. That was their concept.
Thanks. I look forward to seeing that bill, because all of us want to see DLNR act more like a private sector attraction with regard to its parks, rather than this cumbersome, slow process of adjusting prices taking years to do.
Thank you so much. This has been good. Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair.
Senator Inouye. I thought you had a question. No.
Oh, yeah, one more. This is for the chair. With regards to the plans at one time that DLNR was going to build the administration office or a building in North Kona, is that still alive? I don't see it as a CIP request. And I was just wondering, because I know earlier there were plans on consolidating and putting everybody together. And now that we need to have opportunities to, for some shovel-ready jobs as well.
Yeah,
So what
we,
happened to that plans?
Well, as you may recall, there were some questions about the site that we had originally
Right.
selected. So DLNR engineering folks have been doing studies on at least one alternate site. Party, maybe you could give an update there?
Yeah, I think you went Mauka, and,
Yeah.
what I remember was engineering had found some sites. So what happened to that request?
Above the highway, and, part of the problem is it's expensive, and, there's a limit in capital improvement projects, and so we are, trying to make sure our CIP requests, further the field work as much as possible. But, Party, maybe you could give a little update on that one?
Yeah, sure. So, Senator, as you know, we moved the site, Mauka, like he said. It's off of the highway, off of Queen K, and it's an unencumbered state parcel. So whatever money we had left over from the site at Honoka'a Harbor, we're still using that money to develop the site, but it's only in the planning stages. And I think what Suzanne was alluding to is that because it's a new structure, we're going to be kind of holding off on requesting CIP for that at the moment. But we're still proceeding with that site, and it's still intended to consolidate a number of DLNR divisions. I think right now State Parks, DAR is still interested in that site, maybe Shippi and maybe DOFA as well. So
Yeah.
still moving.
We're moving the Shippi, we're consolidating the Shippi sites. Instead of one West Hawaii, East Hawaii, we're consolidating and building a really planning for a state-of-the-art, very culturally relevant Shippi facility on the University of Hawaii Hilo campus, which would also, and we're consulting with the College of Hawaiian Studies and Imilua Astronomy Center together to create a nexus of a major reference center, resource center of Native Hawaiian material through consolidating the Shippi facility from the West Hawaii side, moving it to Hilo, and together with the East Hawaii effort, putting it on the university campus, therefore increasing the University of Hawaii Hilo's capacity also.
And
So-
if I could add, Land Division, has plans for a new building in Hilo. They're terribly, their existing space is terribly tight, and so we do have a request in our budget for Land Division to use special land and development funds, B funds, to move forward on that building.
So we're looking forward to presenting our current and future facility requests and plans on the island of Hawaii, especially with Senator Inoue, and either to her committee or through a special briefing. Because I think you'll find the way we're redirecting is exciting for the island.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps we'll set aside one of the days. We were discussing it with staff today to kind of look at the projects as well, because today's time is limited. So we'll be having hearings with regards to your statewide plans as well for CIP, including the Big Island. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Favela.
Hi, this is for the chair. When I first got onto the land board with Kai, Senator Kai Kaele, we was talking about positions for water monitoring. Whatever happened to the two positions and equipment that was supposed to be purchased to do the water monitoring and protecting and monitoring the streams that is now being diverted, totally drying up streams all over our beautiful islands. Whatever happened to that two positions, and how far is you guys orient with this water monitoring and lease giving project?
Yes, and thank you for that support, and I'll maybe ask Kaleo and Brian to speak to it, but essentially, CWRM, the Water Commission staff, and the Aquatic Resources staff are working closely together to do that stream monitoring, and it is a really important part of, making sure as we do all of this work, which we have been doing really, really exciting work on establishing in-stream flows standards, so that we have, a much better idea of how much water is available for off-stream use. An important part of that is to make sure we're on the right track by doing that stream monitoring. So maybe, Kaleo, Brian, you want to elaborate on that?
Chair, Kaleo Manuel, Deputy on the Commission of Water Resource Management. Related to the positions, those positions weren't established timely enough based on the pandemic and so forth. And so those are being lost as this vacant position abolishment. And so we won't have those positions to do stream monitoring. Related to monitoring, we are continuing to do what we can throughout the state in partnership with USGS, primarily in our stream gauging and limited field work because of travel restrictions. This past year, we worked closely with DAR, with Brian's team, and developed our kind of first coordinated monitoring program where we looked at East Maui streams to try and collect baseline data. And we have a draft report of that work that's been done and would be willing to share that with you folks to show how money that has been set aside for that purpose will help to produce data to help better manage our streams. Unfortunately, with the 20% reduction, that is one of the first budget items that gets pushed potentially off the table for us. And so we're having to find ways to try to keep that going with the limited staff between our commission staff as well as our staff. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Brian.
Yeah, I'd just say that was a great project. DAR was able to utilize some of those funds and also leverage some of our other funds to conduct the biological surveys in cooperation with CWRM. So that include biological monitoring in the stream, but also the estuary, which is also deeply dependent on water availability, and we'd be happy to share that report with you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then maybe later you can share with me on the findings in, I think it was Hana Maui, when they had that big 1-2 mile pipe. I'm not sure if you guys ever found out who owned the pipe, shoved into the stream all the way up to the mountain, almost to the top. Can you send me some information on that if you guys got any of the data?
Yes, Senator, we'll follow up with you and your office to figure out what specific issue and try to see if we have some resolution to that.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Those on Zoom? If not, we really want to thank you. I know you guys have worked extremely hard during the COVID pandemic. Many of you have risen far above and beyond anyone's expectation to making sure that our community has a safe place to have recreation facilities. You guys have done so much with the homeless, in protecting the harbors. I mean, there's just so many things that your department has done that really we all appreciate. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the support. It's so critical, and I know it's a tough job, and we really appreciate all your support.
Happy New Year.
Mahalo.
Happy New Year. Thank you guys.
Happy New Year. Yeah, thank you.
Mahalo.